There are 3 separate fire and rescue teams surrounding this manhole, one team for each of the unconscious men trapped inside. Captain Neil White of the Jacksonville, Florida Fire Department is one of the rescuers on scene.
They dispatched us. As soon as I heard the call going out, it sounded like it was going to be something serious.
It was supposed to be a simple 3-man contracting job. Fix a few cracks in the sewer to make way for a new section of drain pipe. The problem started when one of the men suddenly passed out.
One of them went down in the hole. We got overcome. His buddy went down there to try to rescue him. He got overcome. The third person went down in there and he got overcome.
By the time rescuers get to the scene, the comatose construction workers have been in the oxygen-deficient tunnel for more than 30 minutes. At this point, the men could have already suffered irreversible brain damage. But until firefighters know exactly what caused the workers to lose consciousness, they can't put themselves at risk by going into the hole. Still, something has to be done fast, for the sake of the victims.
All 3 of them were tangled up very badly. There's just like a wad of spaghetti down the hole. One of them had his face down in the water.
The rescuers immediately began pumping air into the sewer, but the oxygen levels are not improving.
The hazmat team was there, and I asked what kind of readings they were getting, and at that point, they were getting a 15 to 16% oxygen level.
There's still no movement from the victims. A firefighter will have to go in to retrieve them, wearing a cumbersome air mask and heavy tank. With just a few inches to move on all sides, an apprehensive Randy White begins his slow, claustrophobic descent.
Don't watch out so you can watch it.
Once in the hole, White struggles to come up with a quick plan of action.
Randy had his hands full just trying to untangle the 3 bodies. Plus, it's physically demanding in the hole. It was kind of tight, and all 3 of the men were pretty good-sized men. And the air didn't seem to last as long as you might think.
With the firemen's oxygen running low, something has to be done fast before the victim count rises. Rescuers lower an aluminum ladder into the hole. Using a length of rope and the ladder's sturdy rungs, Randy White improvises a harness. It works. The victim is securely fixed to the ladder, but just barely clinging to life. He has virtually no vital signs. While one rescue team works on getting him to a stretcher, the other teams go after the remaining men. Firefighter Alan Mallard steps up to relieve Randy White in the hole. This time, rescuers use a harness attached to a mechanical winch to pull the victim out. Like the first man, this victim is completely unresponsive. Paramedics insert a breathing tube into the man's trachea, desperate to pump clean oxygen into his lungs. But there is still one more man in the hole, and by this point, even the rescuers with their oxygen tanks are finding it hard to breathe.
After the second victim, the rescue that's in the hole started running low on air, so I was up and went in to assist in getting the last victim out.
All eyes are on Captain Neil White as he nervously makes the final climb down into the deadly tube.
The most important thing is just knowing your limitations and what you can and can't do, and make sure you have enough backup people there in case the rescuers get in trouble.
White quickly secures the third man, and rescuers begin lifting him out. But the man has been unconscious and without clean air for more than 40 minutes. And with the other construction workers in roughly the same shape, the mood among rescuers is anything but celebratory.
I had told my crew, I said they're probably not going to make it.
Paramedics immediately rush the men into waiting ambulances. Now it's up to doctors to save their lives.
We had a call from fire rescue that there were 3 men being extricated from a manhole, and all 3 of them were unconscious and not breathing. About 15 minutes later, all 3 of those individuals arrived at the emergency department.
After several tests, Dr. Nibbs and his team discover what caused the men to initially pass out, and it's serious.
The signs and symptoms that they had was consistent with hydrogen sulfide poisoning. Permissible exposure limits are between 5 and 10 parts per million for a very short period of time.
When inhaled directly, the naturally occurring sewer gas, hydrogen sulfide, can paralyze the lungs. And these victims breathed in nearly 80 times the permissible limit. The men are treated in a hyperbaric chamber. The treatment is supposed to remove the hydrogen sulfide from the red blood cells by hyperoxygenating the bloodstream. But the construction workers received more than a lethal dose of the poison, and there's no guarantee that the treatment will work. For now, doctors can only monitor the victims and wait. Less than a week later, Jacksonville Fire and Rescue receives a surprise visit from an unlikely person. Victim Tony Matthews.
I don't know what to tell y'all fellas. I mean, I am just blessed to be here, and thank you very much. I mean, I owe my life to y'all. I mean, it's a wonder to be here.
Tony was the second man out of the sewer, and though all of the men eventually make a full recovery, he's the quickest to pull through. But today, as Tony watches the video of his ordeal, he appreciates just how close he and his crew came to death. He realizes now that he and his buddies made the mistake of trying to rescue each other on their own. Luckily, thanks to the Jacksonville fire and rescue crew, there's one thing Tony Matthews and the other victims can now agree on. It was teamwork that prevented this hole in the ground from becoming their grave.
Turn it on.